GMAN Division 9, it's the final recap. It's a little bit late as well, I do apologise for that. We've been super busy. Obviously after week 11 we had the play-ins starting in the Fresh Division, so we had to do a lot of coverage and a lot of organisational work for them. I've also had things like the Nufflies to do, the end of season awards, and of course playoffs starting as well. So I've been flat out with Blood Bowl recently. And been fairly busy outside of Blood Bowl as well. So apologies that this final recap has taken a little bit of time for me to put together. But here it is. We're going to change things up ever so slightly because, of course, the season is over now. So what we're going to do is a quick run over week 12 and week 13. Of course, we'll be able to reveal who it is that's going to the playoffs. And then just to finish off, we'll have a look through all the teams, see how they're looking. And I'll also be able to check the sign-up sheet for next season as it currently stands to see who's bringing their teams back, who might be going down a different route. And we can just wrap things up in a nice little bow. So we'll begin with week 12 and the performance of the week. Of course, there was a big game in week 12, wasn't there? That we'll come on to in a bit. But the actual performance of the week award for what is the second week in a row goes to the Boondock Skinks, because the Boondock Skinks have won 3-0 yet again, and that is in week 12. They played against the Sci-Fi Samurai Coast Cthulhu Collectors team, and this result pretty much confirmed that Moondingo will finish as the top lizard team in the division. But of course he has that natural one-turner now, movement 10 sprint, and he is making massive use of it, running in touchdowns galore. So all of a sudden Moondingo, it goes to show how your season can kind of turn around in a heartbeat just when you get a few players developed up to the level that you want them to be at. So on fire at the moment, Moondingo, it is fair to say. So that was a great result for him. Elsewhere in week 12, Chosen of Papanergal 1, Bloody Mary Queens 1, obviously. Hack Slash and Mutilate 1, Shock and Gore 1, and then the big one, Sabertooth Vads 3.0 1, the Big Cups 2. That means that it is Juvasak who is going to the Rebel playoffs. He's won the division. That's your Division 9 champion. So congratulations to him and the Dwarfs. I'll talk about the game in a bit more detail shortly. Sneaky Blinders 1, Aaron Elfos 2, Boondock Skinks 3, Sci-Fi Samurai 0, as we saw. The Watch 1, Quiguanas 1, and Erwinder's Requiem 1, Hubat 2. So, we'll begin at the top. Chosen of Papanergal 1, Bloody Mary Queens 1 means that Lava Jackal picks up another 1-all draw. Would you believe it? He managed to pick up the Player of the Week award as well. Bipolar Goal, getting the job done. So, congratulations to him. He managed to pick up a touchdown and 2 casualties in this game to take that win ahead, or take the Player of the Week award, I should say, ahead of a bunch of other teams a bunch of other players even, who managed to get to 6 SPP, but Bipolar Goal getting to 7. This is how the match looked SPP-wise. Well, Bipolar Goal pretty much doing all of the work on his own for the most part. 17 armor breaks to 4, as you'd expect, but the Elves not suffering any deaths in this one, which was at least good news for Soulforged, and a 1-1 draw. A result that means that both teams just stay in that top half area, but don't really get anywhere near the top 3 or 4. Hack Slash and Mutilate 1, Shock and Gore 1. That was a result that, of course, confirmed that Gruff couldn't make it to playoffs. Great result for Jonah, I have to say. That was a good draw for him, and he was oh so close to sneaking a win with the way that game went down. But again, it just eludes him, that victory, unfortunately. But a good result to take a point off the third place team. He managed to actually hold his own in this one. You can see 11 armor breaks to 13. And no deaths either way, so nothing too drastic for either side. Of course, these games happened a little bit a while ago. Percival here was unlucky, actually, not to pick up the Player of the Week award. He just missed out by 1 SPP to Bipolar Goal there. But a good result for Jonah, who was able to... Of course, this alignment needs firing. It's strength 2. That's a bad MVP for him. So Wolfgang, I imagine, is gone at this point. But yeah, a good point. A well-earned draw, and unlucky to have not made that one a win. Right, so the big game was Sabertooth Vadge 3.0 won the Big Cups 2. That, of course, confirmed that Juvasak is going to the playoffs. And it was a really, really frustrating game for MB Carmack, this one. He rolled so many first action ones trying to dodge away from tackle players. It was absurd. So the dice really, really didn't help him out. He looked like he caused all sorts of pressure. He was haranguing, throwing everything he had at the dwarf cage, but unfortunately Nuffle on the day just deciding that it was the big cups that were going to come out victorious. So Juvasak will go marching on to the playoffs. Congratulations to him, and we'll talk about his chances a little bit more later on in the show. We're just doing a quick recap of all the results this week. That's how the game looked in the background. 13 armor games to 5. And an MVP for the IG5 catcher. It was quite nice. And a level for that Longbeard too, which is good news for Juvasak. Sneaky Blinders 1, Aaron Elfos 2. Another win for Matthew, who's on fire at this late stage of the season. So congratulations to him. He's really turned around what was a pretty rough start for him to suddenly be winning games left, right and centre, which is great to see. The game itself looked like this. A lot of damage coming in from the Underworld. 22 armor breaks, but no deaths. And I don't think too much in the way of perms for Aaron Elfos. In fact, yeah, you can see just the one injury from 22 armor breaks there. So a frustrating one for Aromasin, who was only able to stun pretty much everything in his path. But Matthew has he's pulled away from the bottom part of the table. So I think that's 4 wins in a row now, up to this point of the season. So that's turning things around. Hopefully that team will be in a good place for next season if you just decide to keep it around and of course comes back. As we talked about, the Boondocks Kings 3, Sci-Fi Sorai 0. The Watch and Quiguanas played out a 1-1 draw, and again a result that was probably mainly just both teams looking for a little bit of development, and they did manage to get it. You can see that the Black Orc with block there got himself the MVP to level up, which is good news. Fred Cole on there, doing good work. But other than that, this was a fairly standard 1-1 draw. Very little to report. We had, again, no deaths either way. And a good amount of SPP actually for the Orcs. You have to say they'll be quite happy to have picked up, 6-8. And then another 16 SPP compared to the 10 picked up by Quiguanas. Managed to score on the enormous Crocodile, which I assume is a Croxigore touchdown, which is quite a thing. So SPP on the Croxigore, always good. But don't hate that late in the season. Just try to level up pieces that really need SPP as much as they can possibly get it. So, yeah, both teams are finishing towards the bottom part of the table, though. That's confirmed at this point. Final game, the absolutely on a tear Vampires, Hubat, winning again against Erwindo's Requiem. Ever since he developed a couple of more extra skills on his Vampires, Paolo B is just on fire. There's no stopping this Vampire team. And even better news, he managed to get an MVP on a guard Thrall, which presumably will have been block for that thing. Erwinder, unfortunately, was looking good, wasn't he, for a playoff challenge, and then all of a sudden over the past 4 or 5 weeks, it's all just fallen away, which is a shame for him. But, plenty for him to come back for next season. The team's still looking in pretty good nick. So he'll be satisfied, at the very least, to have been in the picture for sort of the early to mid part of the season. All right, we'll jump straight into week 13 now. And the performance of the week for week 13 goes to the Bloody Mary Queens, who managed to pick up a 3-2 win against Sabertooth Vadge. So MB Carmack, despite all of the challenges he threw for top spot, ended up losing his last 2 games. And when we see the league table shortly, the big cups ended up running away with it in the end. So it was a 3-2 victory, as we can see here. Not much in the way of armor breaks, but of course it's elf versus elf. That's often the case. But both teams running up the touchdowns, obviously just looking to develop the teams a bit more ahead of next season. You can see all the SPP. Carmack managed to find a few casualties, but also just vanity passing as often as he could, just to try and level it. You see 5 passes to 3, both players just trying to get SPP everywhere they possibly can. And that MVP on the War Dancer, Filthy Chad, is excellent news as well for the development of the team. Just needs a vanity pass in the Open Invitational if he chooses to play. And he can get a level on that thing. So elsewhere in week 13, just about to bring the results up on the screen for you now. Here they are. Aaron Elfos 1, the Big Cups 2, Juvasac going into playoffs on a roll. Hack Slash and Mutilate 1, Hubat 2, also on a roll. Vampires win again. Sabertooth Fads 2, Bloody Mary Queens 3, Shock and Gore 2, The Boondock Skinks 2, Sneaky Blinders 1, Quiguanas 1, The Watch 1, Sci-Fi Sorai 1, and of course, as you'd expect, to round out the season, Erwinder's Requiem 1, Chosen of Papa Nurgle 1. So, Aaron Elfos versus the Big Cups. It was a match that Juvasac was concerned about because he reckons his record against Elves isn't great, but he did win both of his last 2 games against the Elf teams 2-1. And you can see in this one, just Machu had absolutely no chance. 20 armor breaks to 2. So many armor breaks and plenty of removals as well, meaning that the Elves, who were unable to inflict anything back in return, just 6% ball possession the whole game, meaning that they scored pretty quickly. And it was then just dwarf caging all the way for the rest of the game. As Juvasac managed to clear 30 points, which is a very good season. Did say whichever team got to 10 wins would almost certainly be going to playoffs, and Juvasac did manage to do that. And it did prove to be accurate, which is quite nice. So there you go. Elsewhere, Hubat, I believe that's a 6th straight win to finish the season there for Paolo B. It might be 5 in a row, but I'm fairly confident it's 6 in a row, which is an absolutely remarkable turn of events. And unfortunately, poor old Jonah finishes the season without a victory. We'll talk a little bit more about his team in a moment, but that's how the game went down. 19 armor break to 6. The Vampires, with that Pom Vamp, of course, just dominating the game. And that's a nice, assuming that's just a badly hurt, that's quite a nice MVP for Uthar there, who can hopefully hopefully pick up something like block to protect himself a little bit. He's quite a nice player, that. Although you could consider Wrestle as well if you want him to be a leaping ball sack threat. That Thrall, he did take block, and he got the MVP again, did Konstantin Rutko. So, MVP hogging towards the end of the season. We've talked about Sabertooth Fadge and Bloody Mary Queen. Shock and Gore 2, the Boondock Skinks 2. Means that Gruff also ends his last 2 games there without managing to pick up a win. In fact, it was no wins in his last 3 to really put a final nail in that playoff coffin, I suppose. This is how the game went down. 8 arm breaks to 8. Nice and even across the board. 2-2. Another mummy. We're having to develop up after another one died, but this one's got an MVP, to mean he just needs 1 casualty now to hopefully roll block yet again. And Bob the Skink helps himself to an MVP as well, which is good news, but we didn't have any deaths, a few casualties either way. Fairly mundane, just end of season stuff. Both teams again looking for development there. Just running through the rest of these. Sneaky Blinder 1, Quiguanas 1, meaning that Aromasin ends the season on just a 1 victory, but importantly, that's 1 victory more than he managed to get last season, which is excellent news for him. Here is the game, and it's an MVP for Renekton, which manages to level him up. 16 armor breaks to 1. We saw Sneaky Blinders producing 22 armor breaks in the last game. Absolutely nothing of the sort here. Massacred to one side by Quiguanas, who managed to pick up quite a few KOs and injuries. 61 blocks to 15. That's really, really one-sided. So well done to Aromasin for getting a draw out of that one. And just the 1 death, which hopefully was just on a goblin, but we'll find out when we have a look at the team shortly. The Watch 1, Sci-Fi Sorai 1. It's another draw for the Watch, and it means the Cthulhu Collector doesn't end the season on a defeat. He has finished down towards the bottom of the table. But there's things to be worked on. This lizard team still has reason to stick around. It's not looking too bad at all. He did suffer a death in this game, which we'll investigate shortly. And another Black Orc MVP for what I think is the 4th edition of Detritus now. Hopefully this one won't die quite as easily as the previous 3 have, as Alzir looks to keep those things alive. But yeah, again, a result that doesn't really do much for either team, but As long as we got a little bit of development, we can see the SPP. The Orcs coming out of that one much better. In fact, the Saurus unable to get anything in the way of casualties, just the one touchdown for Jack McDevitt. So the Watch have done well over the past 2 games there. They've picked up a nice haul of SPP to sort of push them into next season, if you like. And they'll be more than happy with that. Final game, as you can see, of course, is Erwinder's Requiem against Chosen of Papanergal, and it finished 1-1. Now, I've done a little bit of research on this, and I'm 90 to 95% confident that Lava Jackal has actually broken a Rebel record for the most draws in a season. We'll see the league table in a bit. I believe his record is 4-8-1, and I don't think any team has ever drawn 8 matches in a season before, but I'm going to do a little bit more research into that just to confirm. But I'm fairly confident that no team has drawn that many games. It is a ridiculous number of 1-1 draws. And it's something that Lava Jackal is well aware that he needs to work on. The important thing from this game is that we did get a death. That double-niggled ghoul with the armour up is dead. And I don't think I'm too disappointed about that. I don't know if Erwinder is or not, but it needed to go, that thing, and Lava Jackal's done him a favour by getting rid of that thing. So, what we're going to do now, and the player of the week, for the final week, I forgot to mention entirely, was not Bipolar Gore, because that is the old graphic. It was, in fact, from Bloody Mary Queens. Mel Darian the 4th there managed to help himself to a couple of touchdowns. And there was a bunch of players who all got 6 SPP in that final week. Mel Darian stole it because he levelled from it, essentially. So that was the arbitrary tiebreaker I chose there. So congratulations to him. In terms of who got the most player of the weeks and performance of the weeks across the whole season, well, there was no outright winner for either. For player of the week, Bloody Mary Queens, Boondock Skinks, The Watch, Erwindor and Hubat all picked up that award twice, with Sabretooth Vag, Chosen of Papanergal and the Sci-Fi Saurai all getting it once. And for performers of the week, Bloody Mary Queens, Boondock Skinks, Big Cups, Sabretooth Vag and Shock and Gore all won that award twice, with The Watch, Sneaky Blinders and Hubat all winning the award once. So no outright winner. You're going to have to fight amongst yourselves as to who earned that one the most. Very little I can do about it. So we're not going to bother with the injury report, development report, because we're going to have a look at all of the teams as they sit. And we're going to do that by working up the league table from bottom to top. So here is how the bottom half finished. And you can see that in 14th place was Jonah and Hack, Slash and Mutilate. He went through the whole season without a victory. But I tell you what, big commendation from me for sticking that season out, because he had a really rough old time with player development and players dying. But you know what? He turned up for every game, didn't whinge, got on with it, did his best, picked up some good draws against some of the guys towards the top of the table, and almost caused a few upsets. So it didn't quite happen for him this season. But if he chooses to stick around, maybe humans just aren't for him. I think what's worth pointing out, and there's a good example of this actually from higher up in GMAN. There's a coach called Dawson who has been with Rebel since its inception. He played since season 1. And he originally played a high elf team and then tried Norse for a bit and then has moved to Chaos Dwarfs now. And for his entire time in Rebel, pretty much finished towards the bottom of any division that he found himself in. But importantly, it was always very, very good fun to play Blood Bowl against and played the game in the right spirit. All of a sudden this season, his Chaos Dwarfs just had the season of their lives and have made it to the Rebel playoffs from G-Man Division 5. So, of course, that sparked mass celebrations from those of us who've been around Rebel for a long time. So you never know. If you maybe just try out a new team, that might be... you might just find a magic formula that clicks for you. I did that with my Khemri team. I was never a great dwarf coach. When I used to have a dwarf team, I was a shocking halfling coach. Absolutely appalling halfling coach. But Khemri seems to be working out, and you never know. Just try something a bit different. You see what clicks. You see what doesn't. This is how the team looks. It's not Mel Darian the 4th. It's not the results screen. It's Hack, Slash and Mutilate, and they look like this. There's lots of injuries, isn't there? There's a Niggle and a Catcher. There's an Agi2 Movement 6 Blitzer that you might consider getting rid of. and an armor value 7 throw that might have to go. It's been a rough old season. Another niggle on that block guard tackle lineman as well. I don't think Jonah is currently on the sign-up sheet for next season, but it is early days. That noise there confirms that that's not the case. But honestly, this team, I don't like to encourage rerolls normally. We like people to stick out with their teams, but if you did choose to reroll this team, you could understand it. It's just got so much damage on it that the rebuild job has proven to be quite difficult. So if you did decide that humans weren't his thing, they're quite a difficult team to play, humans. I think what people tend to think looking at them is, humans are like the easy learn the game mode because they've got throwers who do the throwing and catchers who do the catching and blitzers who do the blitzing and linemen who are the line fodder and an ogre who can punch things as well. And it's fairly easy to work out. But humans are not an easy team to play. They are difficult to master, and we don't see many human teams make it to the playoffs, for example. So might be better, you can maybe try off a season with a bash team and see if that works more to your liking, or you could try an agility team and see if elves are your thing. But humans are quite difficult, and if this was to be re-rolled, you could understand it. But certainly Jonah deserves a pat on the back for seeing out the season. Don't want that to sound patronising, because that's certainly not how it's intended. But it is rough when you're losing every week or not able to get that win. And we do get coaches who will have had better seasons than this and quit because they don't want, or they're not doing as well as they hoped. So when someone doesn't win a game all season but just does choose to stick it out, it's definitely worthy of a mention. Okay, finishing the season in 13th place and already confirmed to return next season with the same team are Sci-Fi Saurai, Cthulhu Collector's mob. They have all the hallmarks of a really good lizard team, but just the results never quite came. Generally speaking, the best lizard teams are the ones where you've got all of the Saurus around about level 3, level 4. A couple of level 2 ones in there maybe as well, because that is almost the sweet spot. If you start getting too many of them up towards level 5 and 6, then it becomes a little bit bloaty perhaps. And you see some that have got 3 rookies and 3 really developed players as well. But this team is almost in the sweet spot right now. They've got an excellent skink, they've got a good Croxigore, and they've got really good Saurus. So no surprise to see Cthulhu Collectors keeping this team around for another season. In terms of promotion relegation, obviously it's difficult to know how many divisions we'll get, whether it'll stick around in Division 9 or it'll be a little bit higher. But the team is certainly worth keeping around. And it's just about maybe over the playoff period, if you get a chance to watch some of the playoff games, take note of some of the lizard coaches, make a note on the sort of things they're doing when they're in possession of the ball, when they're not in possession of the ball, how are they positioning the Saurus and all that sort of thing, because there's just the backbone of a good team is here. It's just about making the right use of the skills that you've got at this stage. But good to see that they're sticking around for another season. 12th place are Quiguanas, who finish ahead of Cthulhu Collector by a couple of points. 1 win, 6 draws, and 6 defeats for Extreme. He's a slightly higher team value on this team. It's 17-10. But it's a little bit more battered and bruised, isn't it? We've got an Armor 8 Saurus there. 3 Blodge Saurus, which is lovely, but doesn't do much for you in the way of hitting back. Sort of keeps your Saurus on their feet. But all of those Blodge Saurus are great against the bashy teams who don't have much tackle, but not so great against things like Elves, because they're just, okay, fine, I'll just run away from your Blodge Saurus. I don't really care. But again, we got a guard stand firm Croxigore, which is great. We have a couple of guard Saurus, which would be good. The only thing we're lacking is some reliable Mighty Blow that isn't on the Crocs, which is a shame. And there's a few niggles on the skink, for example, there that you'd maybe get rid of, just to sharpen up the team a little bit. You're not losing a diving tackle skink is not the end of the world, so you'd probably consider firing him to save a little bit of team value. I just need to check if they are signed up for next season. They are, yes. So Quiguanas are showing up as returning for next season, so that's good to see. These lizard teams are not throwing the towel in, despite the fact that they've had a rough time of things. And I think it's fairly likely that Cthulhu Collector and Extreme will end up in the same division again, renewing that Lizard Man rivalry, and we'll see which one of them can come out on top next season. So it'll be the same advice to Extreme going into season 11. I would just say, if you get a chance over the off-season, watch some of the casts of the Lizard teams that are in action and just see how those coaches are coaching those teams. There's a couple, who are already in there and doing quite well. That are definitely worth a watch. I'm just going to have a check of the playoff bracket in the background here just to see who are the sort of guys who would be good to look out for. Because with 64 teams, it's a little difficult to keep your head on who's doing what. But from the Big O, Reese is doing very well with Lizards. He's playing some Wood Elves in the first round. Ready Lizard 1, coached by Hoily Boy, are a very, very, very good Lizard team. They absolutely dominated Division 3 this season. So if you get a chance to watch his game against Mighty Zug, which I believe is going down on Sunday morning, certainly get a chance to watch that VOD because you'll get a bit of a lesson in Lizard coaching from there. If you're not sure who it is that's casting the game, just drop me a ping on Discord and I'll try and find the VOD for you. But it's definitely worth a watch because there's some good standard play. Okay, next on the list, finishing in 11th place, our Sneaky Blinders, Aromasin, with his 1 win, which is of course infinitely % more than the 0 he managed in season 9. But good to see him get that win, and the team is in pretty good nick, with the exception of those MNGs. But he does have a Claw Mighty Blow player. That thrower's excellent, and this thrower's not too bad as well. The Strength 6 Troll is magnificent, and he doesn't have too much blow on Goblins either. So as far as Underworld teams go, that is pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. You may be lacking a dirty player, possibly one of those linemen. One might go Wrestle Tackle, the other one I might have gone down a dirty player route with. I know Metal's keen on calling them fouling positionals, but that extra removal's always handy on an Underworld team because it is very glass cannon in the way it plays. Just need to check if Aromasin is planning to stick this team out for another season. Hopefully we'll be able to find him on the list. There he is, yeah, Sneaky Blinders will return, which is great. Really happy to see this. So again, might end up in the same division as the 2 Lizards because they weren't too far apart in the table. But good to see the Sneaky Blinders will be back, and hopefully they can improve on their 1 win to 2, 3, or even maybe more. You never know. The Watch finished in 10th, coached by Alzir, of course, and it was a weird old season for them. It was difficult to get development. But they're now sitting at 1600 TV, and that's not too bad at all. Here's the team. We got 3 block Black Orcs, 2 of which have Guard, 1 of which have Mighty Blow. That's looking really good, actually, amongst the Black Orcs. He is carrying 1 rookie, but it's 1 random Kaz away from picking up block itself. The Killer has Frenzy, which is good, but you need to be careful with it because you can get yourself into trouble frenzying at the wrong time. We've got the plus movement platoons, actually 2. I'd consider firing that. Plus movement is okay, but not brilliant early doors. You'd probably just want more kill skills. Another Mighty Blow Tackle is good. He needs a bit more guard on this team, so I'd be building his rookie blitzer there into a guard player if I possibly could. The thrower's fine, plus movement. And dump off's an interesting choice for if he gets hit. And then we got a guard lineman and a wrestle lineman. So again, plenty to like about this team. They are not currently showing as signed up for season 11 at all, is all here. So don't know if he's planning to stick around. That a good noise again confirms that is the case. Not sure if he's planning to sign up or if he's just deciding whether to re-roll. But hopefully he comes back. I think there's all the makings of a decent coach in Alzir. He had a very strong start of the season and unfortunately just fell away when he started to meet some of the more high agility teams and didn't quite have the tools to deal with them. But hopefully, even if it's not with the Orcs, we'd quite like him to see him come back for another crack at this, even if it was in a fresh division. 9th place is the Boondock Skinks, who do officially finish as the top Lizardman team in GMAN Division 9. And, they have taken a little bit of hurt in their final game, actually, of the Boondock Skinks. Look at this. Armor value 8 now on that Croxagore, who's been a very, very good player for him all season. Block, guard, and stand firm is pretty much perfect. Now you've got decisions to be made about whether you keep that around. Because At armor value 8, it's a bit more likely to get removed, and if it starts getting removed, it's a bit of a liability to your team. Elsewhere, we still have too much SPP in Skinks and not enough in Saurus at this point. He's got 5 out of 6 Saurus leveled, which is great, but doesn't have any guard, which is a big problem for him. But that being said, the one-turn touchdown Skink at the bottom there is absolutely the MVP on this team, and if he keeps him alive, it won't be long until that thing levels again, because one-turn Skinks are stupid like that. They'll just rocket up. So again, we'll hopefully see this team around next season. Yeah, the Boondock Skinks are confirmed to return for season 11 as well, already signed up, which is great news. There's a chance that Moondingo might get a little 1 division promotion. We'll see how the team's looking after the Open Invitational, if it chooses to play in that. But bits and pieces to like, but would like to see more guard on this team and maybe fire 1 or 2 of the bloaty Skinks. There's a lot of team value in these Skinks. Possibly that block fend one can go if you had to pick one. Okay, the final team in the bottom half in 8th place were Aaron Elfos, who finished really, really strongly, other than that defeat to the big cups in the final week. Matthew's Dark Elves, of course, were able to rely on those 2 Mighty Blow Witches towards the end of the season, which was great. So that's how the team's looking. It's in decent nick. Dark Elf teams, like all Elf teams, are just prone to being fine and then suddenly not being fine. So that plus movement lineman, I'd get rid of that. He's niggled. You don't need that. You can get rid of him. A rookie's just about fine. We do have an assassin. Not many people run assassins, but of course, if you level him with a double, you pick multi-block, so you can stab twice. And then enjoying this Dauntless on the blitzers. So we've got a strip ball Dauntless. We've got a Dauntless strip ball. And we've got a blodge step tackle. Now, I don't know about 2 strip ball. Normally, you just have 1 strip ball, and you might build a lineman into a wrestle tackle player at this point, because, of course, the blitzers already have block. Would like to see a bit more guard. If you rolled a double on a blitzer, I'd like to see him take guard on one of them, but I would probably fire one of those Dauntless strip ball blitzers and try to build a new one if he does choose to keep the team around. At the moment, Matthew is not showing us signed up with that team, or indeed any team at this point. So we don't know if he'll be back, but fingers crossed he will be. He's still got a few weeks to sign up yet. We've got like 6 weeks of the off season to go, so plenty of time. But yeah, there's with the 2 Mighty Blow Witches as they are, there's definitely scope to develop this team. But would like to see him just change his approach to some of these blitzers. He needs some guard on the team to allow those Mighty Blow Witch Elves to get more reliable hits. And there's a few players you can bin off as well and try to develop again. But it's difficult to do with Dark Elves. You're always worried they're going to die. You can also bin a reroll as well. Don't need 4, so we can really trim down the TV. And I'd rather see a wizard on the field in my favour than the extra reroll. Okay, moving into the top half, and you can see that the big cups are the Division 9 champions. Congratulations to Juvazak. He will be going to the Rebel playoffs to represent GMAN 9. So hopefully you guys will be giving him plenty of support. But we'll start at the bottom. And in 7th place are Erwinder's Requiem, who, as I say, were challenging for a long part of that season, but it just fell away towards the end. That being said, the team, now that they've got rid of that ghoul that was really broken, is in good nick. Those mummies are excellent. Block guard stand firm and blodge guard stand firm is magnificently good. We've got the strength 4 Mighty Blow Tackle White, which is great. We've also got the Mighty Blow Tackle Dodge White, which is good. The plus movement ghoul is great. Would still like to see him develop a ghoul towards wrestle and tackle. And the Sneaky Gate Skeleton, you want to see him get dirty player, so the Sneaky Gate is actually useful. But other than that, not a bad Undead team at all. And good to see Erwinder have a season where he was able to finish in the top half of the table. Because he's had a few now where he sort of finished towards the bottom end of things. So nice to see him getting involved and putting up a good fight. And I'm just going to check to see if the team are coming back next season. At the moment, he is not showing as signed up, but hopefully he will sign up. Erwinder's been around for a long time, so I would assume he will. But you've got plenty of time to do that, as I say. Okay, finishing in 6th place in the end. the elephant in the room, chosen of Papa Nurgle. Massive, massive Nurgle team. Not great results. Only 4 wins from the season. But that being said, they lost less games than anybody else in the divisions. It's really hard to call whether it was good or bad. On the whole, just draw less games. And he would have really had a chance of qualifying for the playoffs. If he could have turned even 3 of those draws into wins, that would have been an extra 6 points and would have seen him finishing second in the table. The team's in great nick. This is one of those teams that might move up an extra division just on the fact that it's really well developed. Bipolar Gore's had an excellent couple of weeks to develop himself within 5 SPP of another level, which you would imagine might be Claw. We've got plenty of Claw on this team. You can always use one more on a Pestigo. But yeah, if you want a 1-1 draw, Lava Jackal's your man. But unfortunately, we just needed a little bit more from him this season. Didn't quite work out, which was unfortunate. But of course, he was my pick for the playoffs at the start of the season as well. So didn't quite go the way I thought it might. But at the end of the day, it's a tough one to call, Blood Bowl, isn't it? You never quite know which way it might go across the season. 13-week season's a long season as well. So only losing 1 game is certainly commendable. But it would have been better to lose 2 more and win 3 more. Or even lose 3 more and win 3 more in terms of your overall points. So something to work on for next season for Lava Jackal. Okay, 5th place are the Bloody Mary Queens, who have gone through something of a rebuild and have actually done it really well. They've managed to roll, would you believe it, another Agi 5 on Mel Darian. So just when you thought this team were maybe dying a little bit, they're back. And they're back to 70 and 70 TV with another level to take on this Agi 5 Blitzer here. Plenty of guard on the team. 2 guard down here, which is nice. We've got a wrestle sidestep player, which is great. And they'll move up a little bit. Don't know how high yet, but there's scope to, if again, Soul Forge will be one of those teams. Whichever recapper ends up picking up this team next season, we'll be looking at it and saying, well, if you can keep this lot alive, they're going to be a threat in quite a lot of games. Don't know. He's not showing a sign up at the moment, but I think I've seen here, or knocking around, the Soul Forge is planning to keep this team all going well. So hopefully we'll see them come back for another crack at it, because again, he's played them quite well at stages of the season. And if it was just that midpoint where he took so many casualties that really scuppered any chances of playoffs. But a good season, finishing 5th in the end. Not bad at all there, finishing the season on 21 points. Now in 4th place, this is the real story of the second half of the season. Hubat coming from nowhere to finish in 4th, tied with Shock and Go. What a remarkable second half of the season Paolo B managed to put together. Really, really impressive stuff. And this is partly why. Look at that team now. We've got 4 vampires at level 3 or above. Blodgestep Pro, Agi 6 Blodgestep, Pom, Tackle, Block, and Blodge for good measure. And 2 guard thralls is really good as well. 1 dirty player, 1 wrestle kick, and 1 wrestler as well. This team is in great shape going into next season. So 240k in the bank might mean that Paolo has eyes on some vampires from the market. The only problem being that there are no vampires on the market. Nobody's ever sold any vampires to the market, so he's going to struggle to do that. But he might be looking to maybe put something of a trade together with some other vampire coaches. That is an option in the off-season, of course. Or failing that, can just buy himself a 5th vampire. But the team value at 1830 is really, really high. Another vampire on top of that is going to cost you 110k, which is going to push you towards 1950 team value. Of course, some of that will come off because there's a lot of that in excess cash. But a good team, and I really want to congratulate Paolo B on an excellent second half of the season. He did really, really well to win what I think was 6 straight games. We'll check that in the history now. There's a win, a win, a win, a win, and a win. 5 straight wins. Unfortunately, it was a loss to the big cups there. But 6 wins in his last 7. Did get a win against Kruganas. So that's really, really strong for a vampire coach. Very, very impressed with that. We'll see how he does next season. Might have just played himself into a slightly tougher division. But is the team coming back? Just having a quick look at the list. They are confirmed as returning. Hubat will be back for season 11. Third place, Shock and Gore. Good season for Gruff, considering he had an awful time in season 9 with things dying across the board. That theme kind of continued in season 10. The mummy Amenemhat even has an awful habit of just dying consistently. And that's an Agibust on Oliver Hardy as well, which is not the end of the world. But what it probably means is that when he does level, you probably want to pick up Juggernaut on that player. Just so that if you do roll a 1 in 9, something like double both down, you can use Juggernaut to push the target away and mean that you're not stuck having to make an Agi 2 dodge to get away from whoever it is you try to blitz. Elsewhere, 2 Agi 4 ghouls is nice, if not a little bloaty, and a Strength 4 ghoul makes us exceptionally bloaty. 150k to add to this team will put them at 1610 going into next season. But Gruff will obviously move up a few divisions. Might find himself alongside Hubat, wherever they end up. And the guys above him as well. So there'll certainly be some rivalries to renew and some new rivalries to forge next season. But a much better season for him than he managed last time, and it was good to see. Okay, finishing in second place was Sabretooth Vag 3.0, and it was a bit of a damp squib end of the season for MB Carmack in the end, unfortunately. But the team is in really good nick. 1570 TV. They have themselves an Agi 5 War Dancer, which is great. They've got themselves an Agi 5 Catcher, which is great. 2 Guard Catchers, which is great. An Accurate Throw, which is good. A Mighty Blow Lineman, which is good, because Mighty Blow on the team always helps Elves. I think that lineman has rolled another Agi 5, he told me. And he's deciding whether or not to take it. Now, Agi 5 is a hell of a drug. You start getting a lot of that, and your Elf team can become ridiculous. Just ask Soulforged. But the thing with Wood Elves is that they're always a threat, even if they start dying en masse. We saw a few seasons ago, Wood Elf team coached by Squiggy make it to the quarterfinals of the playoffs with literally one Agi 5 War Dancer that had tackle and strip ball, I believe, and one guard player, and then mainly a bunch of loners behind that. Hell of a run. It is possible with Wood Elves, so MB Carmack will move up. I know I've spoken to him. He's keen to move right up towards the top divisions. He seems to have his eyes set on the Sage and taking him down. Now, Sage has a notorious weak spot with his Chaos team to Wood Elves in playoffs. He's been to playoffs in all 7 seasons of Rebel now, and he has lost on 3 occasions to Wood Elves in the playoffs. And on 2 of those occasions, it's been to 1 season-old Wood Elf teams. So if MB Carmack does get a chance to have a go at the Sage's Chaos team, we'll fancy his chances. But it might be another season or 2 before he gets that chance yet. But from talking to him, it does seem like he's really enjoyed the season, and it's been a pleasure to have him here, which is great. 2 SPP away from a level on Dumas as well, which could be lovely. If he can get strip ball on that thing, he becomes a real threat. Or maybe even Frenzy. Depends which way you want to go. But this is a team to keep an eye on, going forward. There's good potential in there. A few bits and pieces of his play still to iron out, but he's not far away. And on that subject, we have to now talk about our division champions, the big cups. The Dwarfs have done it. They were always the favourites. Everyone was playing sort of chase mode, if you like, for the entirety of the season. But to win a division with Dwarfs is not easily done. There was one Claw team that was really scary, and then the Underworld team that was kind of scary. But congratulations to Juvazak. He will go on to the Rebel playoffs, and his team is in good shape. We have one Niggle Blitzer, which is a concern, but he's not too bad. Guard across the board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guard players. Norrin rolled a strength up from his MVP in the final week, and we've got a Blodge firm player as well for good measure. The runner is Blodge Sidestep, which is great, and Kickoff Return. We've got a couple of Troll Slayers with Mighty Blow. This team is in good shape. Now, Juvazak knows as well as everyone else, but he's got a big challenge facing him in the first round, because he is drawn against Ornan, who is not only a former Rebel champion with the Norse team that he's bringing to the playoffs again, New Year Norse, who are in what I believe are their final season. But Ornan is the current Blood Bowl 2 world champion. In the Cyanide Run tournament last summer, Ornan's human team won that entire thing. I think he won about 10 grand from the experience. Very, very, very good coach, and Juvasak is going to have his work cut out to win that game. But he's up against armor value 7, and he's armor value 9, and he's got lots of guard and lots of mighty blow. So it's not just about base, because Norse can pack a punch. They've got mighty blow of their own, and of course be very, very wary of Yetis. But if you make them start having to make 3+ plays, they will eventually fail. And that might give Juvasak a chance to win this one. If it went to overtime, I think he'd be in a good spot, actually, just from playing the attrition game. So playing for the 1-1 might not be too bad an idea. What we will do is take a quick look at his opponent in the playoffs, just to see how that Norse team does look. It's where you see behind the curtain of how many leagues I'm an admin of. So yes, the Season 7 Rebel champions are New Year Norse. This is coached by Ornan. They're from REL Division 1. They finished 3rd over there. And this is his Norse team. They actually don't have a Yeti. I wonder if that thing died at the end of the season. But his Ulfwereners are weak. He doesn't have much on the Ulfs at all. But 1995, the Berserker, is an excellent player. Mighty Blow, planning on Jump Up, Tackle, Pro, and Dauntless. We've got an Agi 4 Movement 7 Berserker, which is interesting. We've then got a Runner with Sidestep, Dive and Catch, interesting choice. And Dodge and Guard as well. The Thrower with Strong Arm and Accurate. A Strength 4 Lineman with Frenzy, because Norse love Frenzy. Another Strength 4 Lineman. A Dirty Player Guard, which is an interesting choice. Guard again. And a Dauntless Agi 2 Lineman there. This is going to be a challenge for Juvasak, but it is not one that he can't win. I think he's got every chance of pulling off a real upset here. So that match is going to be live on Sunday at 9 a.m. UTC on my Twitch channel. I believe Aromasin's going to be in there to co-cast the game as well. So obviously I'll be perfectly impartial, but I'm sure Aromasin will be throwing plenty of support behind Juvasak. And if any of you guys are able to turn up and watch the game live, please do so, because it would be great to get all of our support behind Juvasak to try and win that game. It would be a hell of a result if he can do it. So best of luck to him. Right, the last thing I'm going to have a look at before we wrap up this final recap of the season is we're going to look right back to the start of the season when I tried to pick out some contenders and see how accurate I was. So here we go. This is what I considered the team chances to be at the start of the season. So we considered the contenders. We'll have a look through the top. Well, Boondock Skinks, that didn't quite work out, although they came good towards the end of the season. Sabertooth Vag and the Big Cups were bang on point. That was 1st and 2nd place. We're going to glaze over the 4th one because I did back Jonah and his humans to be a contender this season, and they didn't win a single game. So that's not one of my best ever predictions. We will pretend that one didn't happen. Chosen of Papanurgle were the 5th, and they really should have been a contender if Lava Jackal wasn't so keen on 1-1 draws. Developers, well, again, we got this one about right across the board. Bloody Mary Queens ended up finishing towards, they were sort of top half of mid-table. Erwin does Requiem just inside the top half. The Watch were having a development season. Unfortunately, kept losing the same Black Orc over and over again. Shock and Gore had a good season. They were a contender, and Hubat were a bit of a late charging contender at the end. So I'll give myself that one. But Shock and Gore, I think, should have been in the top section there. And then the outsiders were pretty much bang on for the most part. Aaron Elfos ended up finishing up in mid-table. But then the 2 lizard teams, Kuguana's Sci-Fi Saurai and Aromason's Sneaky Blinders, proved to not be challenging towards the top of the table. Right, guys, that is it for the whole 9 yards Season 10 recaps. And what I want to say from my own point of view is I went into this. This is the first weekly recap series I've done. And when I was handed GMAN's bottom developed division, there's a part of me that thought, oh, okay, there's a half a chance that this ends up one of those divisions where we get about 5 dropouts. And by the end of the season, the recap just becomes a mess of me trying to work out what's going to be an admin win, introducing new teams, this, that, and the other. Well, you guys have all stuck it out and played the entire season, and it has been an absolute pleasure to recap for you this season. A lot of you have really got involved in the community spirit of the league, which is brilliant. I know there's been some rivalries developed amongst this season, and a few of you have probably, picked up some good online friends out of this as well. So from my point of view, it has been a pleasure. You've all played the game in exactly the right spirit. You've been massively competitive when you needed to be, and also been willing to sort of hold your hands up and say well played to each other when someone's played better and beaten you through skill as much as anything else. So going forward, I don't know if I will be recapping next season or not, and if I am, whether I'll end up recapping any of your divisions or not. But all I can really say from my own point of view is, firstly, best of luck to Juvasak in the playoffs. I really hope you manage to make an impression there and put up a good fight in that first game. And for the rest of you going forward into season 11, just the very best of luck. I'm sure you'll all be keeping an eye on each other's results to see how you all get on. And I'll be keeping an eye as well, just to see if some more of you guys can make the playoffs in season 11. But from me, enjoy the off season. I hope you don't suffer too much damage in the Open Invitational if you go into that. But best of luck to all of you in season 11. Cheers, guys.